you often hear editors especially saying, I raise the stakes, nothing feels like it's at stake. And so I think there are two ways of thinking about stakes. One is making what's happening matter in the exterior world, and so saving the world has, a grander stakes than something more individual and personal. But to me, the best novels also, even if the character is trying to save the entire galaxy, that it's brought back to who they are as a human being, and so we care more about it because it's more personally important to the character. And so I think a good example of this is actually Star Wars. So for instance, Luke Skywalker is literally trying to save the galaxy, but then it becomes extremely personal because he's trying to save his friends. His father is in the mix, and so he is not only not only are the stakes high for everyone in the galaxy, but it's also for him as an individual and as a character. And so when you're trying to raise the stakes, I think it's a matter of both considering expanding the canvas of the novel, but that doesn't work for all novels, and I wouldn't try and universalize that. But more importantly, make it more important to who the character is as a human, and give them more reasons to care. So back to the example of a character who's trying to be rich, it's that why, and like making it matter. And then so another way of thinking of it is what happens if the character wins and what happens if the character loses, and giving them better rewards and more downside. And so if a character, like let's say the character doesn't get rich, what are they risking? Are they going to be destitute? Are they going to be humiliated? And so giving both a sense of a very clear reward and a very clear risk if they fail will really clarify the stakes for the reader.
Is it always explicit? What will happen if they fail? Is it? It can be implicit. It can, but I tend to think that it's usually best to articulate it in a specific way, because we learn about the character by the way that they think about these things. Right.
And so when it's life or death, it's implied. If a character is being, chased by an axe murderer, we don't need to literally see them think of like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't die. And so like sometimes it's implicit. Yeah. But like when in the case of a character who's pursuing their passion or their dream, what you'll often see is that we get that they want to like achieve, like follow their dreams and become successful and all these other things, but sometimes we don't see enough of. But what if they don't? Wouldn't that be fine too? Mm-hmm. Whereas if you give them a much deeper, pit to fall into if they don't succeed, then we're going to be gripped a little bit more by watching them walk that tightrope across the pit, because it's like, okay, well, if they don't make this work, then it's going to be really bad, and then we get more invested as a result of that. And
I love the way you talk about mountains of intensity the protagonist experiencing, really high highs and really low lows right before or right around the climax.
Right.
And having all the climactic arcs come together. Right. And the more, the better. So how do we do that?
Yeah. Well, so this is very, very old storytelling theory. It goes starting with Aristotle all the way through every plot framework book that was written in the 20th century. But basically, the idea is that the obstacles should increase in intensity as you go along, and so you get over the smallest humps first, and then you ascend. And it's kind of like playing a video game where you defeat the easy guys, and then you get to the boss at the end of the level.
And this is true for all genres.
All genres, and even literary fiction, where it's more subtle in literary fiction, but you can still see it where. The character things get more intense, and things start to matter more, and the stakes become higher. And then in classic storytelling, there's like a nadir where all hope seems lost, and then the character might in the depths, summon their last courage, and then have to use the things that they've learned in order to summon the mountain and finally defeat the bad guy. And so a lot of classic genre novels or classic plot frameworks have that nadir as like when the all hope seems lost moment, followed by the final triumphant victory. Even if you don't use something quite that stark, I do think it's important to have ups and downs throughout. Things should never always be good. They should never always be bad, and it kind of varies the experience for the reader, but also the protagonist should go through good and bad times, and we learn more about them by seeing their ups and downs, their good sides and bad sides, and then everything builds towards that final climax.
Just thinking from a planning standpoint. And I guess you refer to it as flagpoles. When you say flagpoles, it's usually the points of the novel that you kind of want to hit, that you want to hit.
Right.
And how do you think about making sure that it's progressively, that you're progressively getting more and more climactic?
Yeah, so a lot of people will call these act climaxes, but essentially I have 4 or 5 points that I know I want to hit along the way that are kind of act climaxes, or I call them Tentpoles because I think of it as like these like heightened moments of intensity, and then things kind of calm down, but they build to the next one. They tend to be moments when something really crucial happens, where it's like a point of no return. So, for instance, in one of the in the first JACOB WONDERBAR novel, the characters blast off into space, but then they break the universe, and suddenly the path to back to Earth is blocked, and so it's a point of no return. Now they're lost in space, and they don't know how to get back. And so, and then you build these moments, and then the characters at one point get separated, which is another tentpole where now not only are they lost, they're separated.
I'm laughing because you're supposed to have no mercy on your characters.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Don't be too easy on your characters. And so so not only are they moments of no return or when dramatic things happen, but it's helpful if multiple plot lines intersect in a key way. And so in JACOB WONDERBAR, Jacob begins. He develops this rivalry with a space pirate, and his friends kind of think the space pirate's kind of interesting. He hates him, and so he starts to feel like a little bit jealous about the way that his friends think about the space pirate. And so when the kids get split up, it kind of cleaves that simmering conflict, and then it makes it much worse because Sarah goes off with the space pirate, Dexter's stuck with Jacob, and so then Jacob's like simmering even more, and it's a misunderstanding, but now Jacob has a reason to be mad at Sarah, but maybe it's a misunderstanding, and you're just kind of like turning the screws on the simmering conflicts that you've created.